What's up guys, welcome to another range day. I've got something pretty special for you today. We're going to be shooting my very first SBR, a fully custom built AR-15 using several components from Battle Arms Development. Guys, if you enjoy the content that I'm making, then please make sure to like and subscribe and leave me a message down in the comments section. I hate asking, but it really does help the algorithm a lot, so I would really appreciate it. And if you ring the bell icon, you should get notifications when new videos are released as well. Additionally, if you want to get more Chester's Hobbies content, you can follow me on Instagram where you can see what I'm working on and get previews of upcoming videos. I'm also pretty active on Reddit if you'd like to follow along with the conversations there. Alright, well that's enough of that, so back to the gun of the day, my custom Battle Arms Development SBR. Now, I've talked before about the versatility and modularity of the AR-15 platform and how there's a wide variety of options out there for customization. I've personally built several AR-15 lowers over the years and slapped pre-built uppers on them, but when I decided that I wanted an SBR, I quickly determined that I wanted to build the whole thing myself from top to bottom so that every component of the rifle will be something I chose personally. So that's exactly what I did. I set out to essentially build my dream gun in terms of shooting performance as well as aesthetics while maintaining strong reliability. Now, I affectionately refer to this gun as the I hate money build because I decided very early on that I wasn't going to spare any expense in achieving my goals with the build. It's probably important to note that by the time I was getting ready to build this SBR, I already had some really nice ARs from BCM, Daniel Defense, Spikes Tactical, Aero Precision, 2A Armament, and more. So I really wanted to make this rifle my own and customize it to be exactly what I wanted. So like I said, my primary goals for this gun were for it to have superior levels of performance in terms of the actual shooting experience while still maintaining strong reliability. And since this was my first fully custom gun, I wanted it to be aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. I wanted it to look awesome and have every component serving both strong function and peak aesthetic. After a lot of research into the components, I decided that I wanted to go with a jet black look, as many of these components have a deeper black color than you'll find on standard anodized AR-15 parts. As a secondary goal, I wanted to keep it relatively lightweight as well. Now, I didn't go crazy in that regard, but I did look at the weight of various components and tried to go with the lightest option that would fit the form and function I was looking for without sacrificing comfort or superior levels of performance. Alright, so with all that in mind, what components did I choose when putting together my first SBR? Well, I started with the Battle Arms Development upper and lower receiver set that I believe is now called the Authority Elite Ambidextrous set. This receiver set is made out of build aluminum. It's very lightweight, includes ambidextrous magazine release and bolt release buttons, and in my opinion, it looks amazing. I love the various details and overall design of the stuff that Battle Arms Development is making. They're just really cool looking while being lightweight and having fantastic function as well. For the handguard, I went with the matching Battle Arms Development 9.5-inch rigid rail, which I don't think they actually make anymore, unfortunately. This is a very lightweight M-LOK rail that actually has M-LOK slots running along the top, except for the 1913 Picatinny rails at either end. I think this handguard looks fantastic and it feels incredible. It's very ergonomic and sleek. It also includes multiple QD sling points at either end as well. The only thing that I have attached to the handguard is a BCM vertical grip, which is a really simple design, but it's still ergonomically one of my favorites. They feel great with a strong C-clamp style grip, which feels even nicer on this handguard in particular because of the more rounded profile afforded by not having a flat pick rail on top. Now, funny enough, the barrel was actually the very first decision that I made because my first thought when building an SBR was to go with a Mark 18 type of build, but I quickly decided that I wanted to heavily modernize that design, so the only thing left from the original thought was this 10.3-inch Ballistic Advantage Hansen performance barrel. It had great reviews and was said to be very accurate with good longevity while not being severely overgassed like a lot of the older Daniel Defense Mark 18 barrels were. For the gas block, I went with a Superlative Arms adjustable gas block. This is a bleed style gas block, and I have to say the repeatable performance that I've gotten out of this thing has been spectacular. It's definitely one of the most important elements of the build in terms of the performance. At the end of the barrel, I'm running a Dead Air 3-prong chemo flash hider that works great as a flash hider with no ping sound and also allows me to attach my Dead Air Sandman-S suppressor. I'm using a Strike Industries dust cover, which I think looks perfect on the build aesthetically, but functionally the Strike Industries dust cover and the Lantac enhanced bolt carrier group don't actually play very nicely together. So I had to use a Dremel to remove a lot of the material from the inside of the dust cover to get it to close. It still pops open on me every once in a while if I bump it too hard, but I'm not too terribly worried about it since this gun is really just meant to be an over-the-top range toy at the end of the day. For the bolt carrier group, I went with the Lantac enhanced nickel boron bolt carrier group that has some enhanced ports that vent gases forward and is supposed to improve the suppressed shooting performance. Nickel boron coating also makes it really easy to clean, so I definitely like that. For the charging handle, I chose the Geissele Super Ambidextrous charging handle, which I love. In addition to being both ambidextrous and really comfortable with the extended handles, it also does a really good job covering up the rear of the upper receiver to minimize gas in the face when you're shooting suppressed. I've got these really nice micro flip-up backup iron sights from Spikes Tactical. The very lightweight build aluminum can be easily flipped up and back down with no button presses required while still locking up nice and tight in both positions. And lastly, on the upper receiver, since this is my I hate money, spare no expense build after all, I went with an Aimpoint T2 red dot on a ScalarWorks Absolute Co witness mount. Now, when building out the lower receiver, I started with a Magpul K2 grip, which is my favorite for short barreled setups because of the grip angle it provides. I went with the Geissele SSA-E trigger, which is easily one of my favorites that I've ever shot. It's got a very light and crisp break and a short tactile reset. I've got a Radian Talon 45-degree safety lever, which has a nice short throw and very positive clicks in both safe and fire positions. I have the Battle Arms enhanced mag release button, which is really nice and comfortable and interfaces well with the ambidextrous mag release button included on the lower receiver on the opposite side. Then I have the Phase 5 EBR or extended bolt release. As I've talked about before, I know not everyone is a fan, but I personally love bad levers. They make reloads, bolt locks, and safety checks quick and efficient for me. However, bad levers often don't play nicely with build aluminum receivers simply because there's not enough clearance for them. This Phase 5 EBR lever, however, fits perfectly and works great from a functional standpoint while also complementing the aesthetics of the build very nicely in my opinion. opinion. It also works nicely with and doesn't impede the function of the included bolt release button on the right side of the lower receiver. So I mainly use the phase 5 lever for bolt hold open functionality and also for manual of arms commonality with the rest of my ARs. I'm using Battle Arm's enhanced takedown pins, which make takedown really easy and smooth. Now for the buffer setup, I'm using a Spikes tactical buffer tube with a Spikes T2 buffer and a JP polished spring, which I lubricate with white lithium grease to minimize spring noise while shooting suppressed. This is a pretty standard setup and might be surprising since I'm going for ultimate performance here, but really the majority of the performance in this build is coming from the Superlative Arms gas block with a little bit of help from the Lantac bolt carrier group and of course starting with an already nicely gas ballistic advantage Hansen performance barrel. To continue with the jet black color theme, I'm using a Fortis QDM plate which looks and functions well with my Savage Sniper sling and then a 2A armament castle nut. Then lastly on the lower I'm using a Voltor iMod or improved modular stock. This is one of my favorite stocks of all time. It's extremely comfortable on the shoulder with a fantastic cheek weld while being very easy and smooth to operate. So that's what I got going on with this build, guys. It's actually been almost 3 years to the day since I finished this build, so it's really fun to look back on and reflect on the decisions that I made. In my opinion, I think this thing looks absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorite guns that I own from an aesthetics perspective, so I definitely think I achieved at least one of my 2 primary goals for sure. This build also did end up being impressively lightweight, weighing in at just 6 pounds, 4.7 ounces with an empty magazine. So that makes it really light and handy and it points nice and fast for me. Alright guys, it's been a little while since I shot this gun, so I'm super excited for this. Let's hit the range and see if all these upgraded parts still result in the superior performance that I was looking for. So guys, I want to give you a quick idea of what this build sounds like unsuppressed versus suppressed. So I'm going to start off with 2 shots unsuppressed, slow fire into the dirt. And then I'm going to cut over to 2 shots suppressed with the Dead Air Sandman-S, again, slow fire into the dirt. So let's start off with our 2 shots unsuppressed. Alright guys, I have to be honest with you here. This custom Battle Arms SBR is hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, the absolute smoothest AR-15 that I've ever shot. It is absolutely incredible, especially suppressed. I shot 260 rounds today and had 100% reliability, which is of course what I expected, but I just can't emphasize enough how smooth the shooting experience is. I have this gun perfectly tuned for my preferred Wolf Gold 5.56 brass case ammunition, and I get a perfect 4 to 430 ejection unsuppressed and about 4 o'clock suppressed. I'm happy to say that the settings I originally dialed in 3 years ago still work perfectly for me today, which is great to see that consistency maintained. When you have an AR-15 that's tuned this well, it really feels like a Goldilocks type of situation where the bolt carrier is moving at the perfect speed to get flawless reliability while minimizing wear and tear on the internal parts, and the ultimate result is just a really smooth, less abrupt recoil impulse that's incredibly pleasant to experience and just a total joy to shoot. I usually like to run muzzle brakes on my rifles these days to help keep my sights on target when shooting unsuppressed, but I have to say that the flash hider setup on this gun is really effective, and the gun itself is so well tuned that I can still go really fast with it. The absence of a muzzle brake to assist with recoil control does mean that it takes a little bit more effort to keep my sights on target under rapid fire, but there's also far less concussion than I've gotten used to with a muzzle brake, so I think that actually makes a pretty big difference in and of itself. But the smoothness of the recoil impulse created by the components I chose for this build result in a gun that's surprisingly easy to keep on target, especially given its light weight. Now, it's definitely not the flattest shooting 5.56 gun that I've ever shot since I'm using a flash hider, not a muzzle brake, but it's definitely the smoothest. But shooting this gun suppressed is really where it comes to life. While it's not the flattest shooting AR unsuppressed, it is absolutely the flattest shooting AR I've ever shot suppressed. Like I said before, it's been a while since I've shot this gun. I've been shooting a lot of other great guns, but it was really hard for me to contain my excitement when I started shooting this thing suppressed today. The sights just flat out do not move. It's absolutely insane. The recoil impulse is almost non-existent. It's just the gentlest of pushes for every round fired. And with the Lantac bolt carrier group venting gases forward and the Geisley supercharging handle sealing off the back of the receiver, I experience almost no gas in the face whatsoever, even under rapid fire. You can see here that it does get pretty dirty when shooting suppressed, but any gun would, and honestly, it's not nearly as bad as many guns would be because I'm venting off so much of that gas at the gas block. And again, since the bolt carrier group has a nickel boron coating, it's really easy to clean, and a quick cleaning can even be done just by wiping it off with a paper towel. Now, being able to switch back and forth between unsuppressed and suppressed and achieve that absolute incredible smoothness when shooting suppressed does require adjusting the gas block, of course. Now, on some guns like a Scar or a Bren, it's just a quick flip of a switch, which is really quick and easy. For the Superlative Arms gas block, they supply a really long Allen wrench that you have to use, so it takes about 10 seconds instead of 2 seconds, but it's still not bad. Just make sure you don't lose this unusually long Allen key or it's going to be a lot more difficult to do. This setup is without a doubt the smoothest and most pleasant shooting experience I've ever had when it comes to suppressed AR-15s, and even though I've owned this gun for 3 years, I was just really blown away today, guys. I'm just so completely impressed. I guess this is kind of one of those fun situations where you get to basically thank the you of the past for making great decisions that you get to benefit from in the present and future. The really fun thing is that now that I have 3 more years of shooting experience under my belt, and since I think I'm objectively a better shooter now than I was then, I think I can really appreciate the overall performance of this build a lot more today than I did 3 years ago when I first built it, which is really awesome and makes me very happy, honestly. So as for my thoughts on how the rest of the build came out, this Geisley trigger is fantastic and really helps a lot with speed as well. It's easily one of my favorite triggers ever. The brake is so light and incredibly crisp, and the reset is quick and easy to ride. I have to say, I definitely think I got some of the fastest split times I've ever gotten with an AR today, and I can really say that the trigger played a huge part in that. I love the ambidextrous oversized magazine releases, and the Phase 5 EBR works beautifully for me. I'm a big fan of 45-degree safeties, and this Radiant Talon safety is really quick and positive to actuate, so I'm really happy with that. The Voltor iMod stock is really comfortable to use. I'm really glad that I went with this stock. It definitely enhances the shootability in my opinion. I have to say it's definitely up there in my top 3 favorite stocks. Got a ton of options for QD sling points on my handguard, on the stock, and of course the QD end plate. Sometimes I do like using my Savvy Sniper sling in a 2-point configuration, but today I just ran it in single point and I love the way that that works for me. I also love how tightly the Battle Arms receiver set fits together. There's no wobble or play whatsoever between the upper and lower receivers. A little bit of play is very common and natural between AR-15 receivers, so it's not a big deal, but I definitely think it adds a little bit to the premium feel of the build. Ergonomically, the entire rifle just feels spectacular. It's really lightweight and handy. It points and moves extremely well. Nothing on the build feels superfluous to me. Everything is just really spot on. I love the aimpoint T2 and the Spikes tactical flip-up sights. Even if I don't use the flip-up sights consistently, I love having them available to reconfirm co-witness and make sure that nothing is shifted, which did actually come in clutch early on when the barrel nut for my Battle Arms handguard was just slightly out of spec and was actually rotating on me. It was very subtle, but what actually got me to investigate was noticing that my iron sights weren't lining up with the red dot anymore, which led to the discovery of the barrel nut and handguard situation. Thankfully, Battle Arms has fantastic customer service. They did a bunch of testing with my upper receiver and handguard, figured out the issue and replaced it for me, and I've had no issues with the handguard or any other elements of the gun since. So definitely a big thumbs up to Battle Arms development in that regard for sure. Now finally, aesthetically, as I mentioned before, I'm absolutely in love with how this gun looks. Even 3 years later, I have to say there's not a single piece of this build that I would change either from an aesthetic or a performance perspective. I'm just really pleased with how this gun turned out. Every element of it is just about perfect in my opinion. It was a ton of fun to build, and I think the decisions that I made along the way ultimately resulted in me building the exact rifle that I wanted for my first SBR, and I really couldn't be happier with it. So that's going to be all for today, guys. We got a lot more videos coming up soon, including more ARs, AKs, PCCs, handguns, and shotguns. So remember to like and subscribe, ring the bell, stay tuned, and thanks for stopping by.